Okay, so I'm going to teach you one more method on how to solve trinomials when a is greater than 1 in this video. So the reason I had you do it the way you did it yesterday is because I wanted you to really tease out how to distribute. And sometimes for students, they can't remember a procedure, and it's just easier for them to think of the numbers that make those things work. So this method I'm going to teach you today is going to be a little bit more procedural. So you have to remember the steps to do it. So as a warm up from yesterday, I want you to factor this. So this, remember, was the guess and check. You're going to have two binomials. And so again, the factors of 6 are either 6 and 1 or 3 and 2. So this one really might take some playing around with. So 4 and 5, there's 10 and 2, 20 and 1. I think that's all. So this one really might take some playing around with. So pause the video, take a minute, and see if you can figure this one out. Okay, so this is what you should have gotten as your answer, and I checked, you can see I kind of checked my work. Lucky for me, my first guess kind of worked there, so that was nice. But it might take trial and error. You might need to use this whole worksheet to kind of figure out what that is. Okay, so I'm going to teach you another method for the same problem. Okay, so this is called the factor by grouping method, and it's kind of like GCF and when a is equal to 1 combined. So it's kind of like a combination of those two things. So the first thing you're going to do is multiply the a term and c term. So in this case, that is 6 times negative 20. And when I do 6 times negative 20, I get negative 120. Okay, now I want to find factors of that add to the b term. So you want the factors of 120 that add to be 7 in this, negative 7 in this case. So negative 120, let's see, and this is where it might take some playing around with. Factors of 120 at 12 and 10. That won't give me a combination to come up with 7, so 20 and 6, that won't work. I have 15 and 8. That will work. 15 and 8 will work. So I just need to make this number negative, because negative 15 plus 8 will give me that negative 7. All right, the next thing we're going to do, once we have that, is split up b term into the factors. So what that means is I'm going to rewrite this, but instead of negative 7, I'm going to write it as this. So what that means is if I do 6x squared, that will stay the same. I'm going to write negative 15x and 8x, positive 8x, because 15 was negative, 8 was positive, and then minus 20. So all I did was replace that middle term with what the sum should be. So this is still equal to negative 7. These things are equivalent, because when I combine those like terms, I get back what I started with. So now this is the grouping part. Split in half and find GCF. So what that means is I'm going to kind of cut this down the middle. I'm going to find the GCF of the first side. So the GCF of 6 and negative 15 is 3. And x squared and x is x. So I'm going to pull a 3 and an x out. I'm left with 2x. And then if I take a 3 out of 15, I'm left with negative 5. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing with my other side. So with 8 and 20, I can take out a 2. And I'm left with, I can take out a 4. That's the greatest factor that they have in common. Take out the 4, and I'm left with 2x minus 5. And so now you notice, hey, these terms are the same. Those should always be the same. This is going to make up one of your factors. So one of the factors for this problem is 2x minus 5. And the other factor is made up from taking this and putting them together. So my other factor is 3x plus 4. And so that is the method of grouping. And so that, and now if you look, we got the exact same answer for both of those. Okay, so that's another method. So after you split in half and find the GCF, I'm going to kind of write it up the side here. Sorry about that. The binomial in the parentheses should be the same. That is one factor. Other binomial is the GCF. GCFs. Okay. So what that means is one of the factors we found was what was the same in the parentheses, so that's one of them. And the other one came from the GCFs that we took out. We made our other factor. So that is factor by grouping. It's a lot of steps to remember, splitting it up and then taking the GCF and then putting them back. So sometimes the guess and check method is just less stuff to remember, and you can just kind of guess and check yourself so you don't have to remember a procedure. So that is factor by grouping. So if you're going to just kind of follow these steps for the practice. Okay, there's 4 questions, and then on the bottom, I just kind of ask you what method you prefer. Do you prefer the method number 1 or method number 2? And then on the bottom is practice for your quiz. So that way you're prepared for the quiz. So it's one of each type of factoring that we've learned so far.